episode 9. Today we will cover the fourth and final sets of verses that shape my interpretation of the Gita, and these are verses 7 and 8 of chapter 4. These verses are quite famous and you may have heard these as well. I will just recite the verses and then point out why they make sense to me. These two verses are Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. God says that whenever there is a decline in righteousness and an increase in unrighteousness, at that time I manifest myself on this earth to protect the righteous, to annihilate the wicked, and to re-establish the principles of Dharma. I appear on this earth age after age. So these are these two verses, and again notice the specificity in the language. One of the most beautiful things about the Gita is that it's very specific and precise in language. Here God isn't saying janmami yuge yuge or janmami aham, or I was born. In the first verse he says tadatmanam srijamyaham, which means I manifest myself. In the second verse he says sambhavami yuge yuge, which means I make myself possible age after age. So God is a power, creator and source of everything. It's not necessary for him to take birth to intervene in this world or this universe. He has his own ways to intervene, to protect the righteous, annihilate the wicked, and establish dharma. It's best to leave it up to him, how he does it, and the form that he acquires to perform the intervention. Nowhere in these verses it's mentioned janmami, and I think that's the beauty of it. So why are these four sets of verses important, and why are these four sets of verses so critical in my understanding of the Gita? From the first three sets of verses, I understood that God is the source of everything, as everything emanates or originates from him. The soul inside you is also a part of him, and the body merges into him once it reaches the final stage. God doesn't keep an account of one's good or bad deeds, and to think that you will go to heaven or hell based on your deeds is a caricature and doesn't really mean anything. Once life ends, the body decomposes and the soul immerses into where it had emerged from, which is God. You have to do everything on this earth itself. You are like a water drop who lives during the journey from sky to the earth and eventually merges into the ocean via rivers, which is God. Three methods have been identified on how to obtain eternal bliss and Shashvat Shanti during this journey, which are Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Dhyana Yoga. Now, many people raise a pertinent question, which is that if God doesn't keep an account of good or bad deeds, who will control a bad man who is involved in bad deeds? Who will prevent the earth from going into an abyss? Who will control this? Who will control that? Who will stop the bad from winning? I am not in agreement with any interpretation of Gita or God's words to manage order in society. This is God's nature, his world, his creation that originated from him and is governed by his rules. So we should not misuse God's words to govern society better, to manage society better. We should leave the management of this world and society to him. It is his creation, created from his material energy, so let him worry about it. Misinterpretation of the words of God to build order in society is not consistent with my interpretation of Gita. And that's why verses 4.7 and 4.8 are important to me, as these are an affirmation of the fact that leave it to God and don't worry. You are supposed to do a few sets of things. What are those things? You have been given a free will, and you've been brought onto this earth where there is an internal righteous battle going on within you. This internal battle is between the positive forces of wisdom, intellect, and yoga, and the negative forces of blind senses, unbridled desires, and ego. You should focus on conquering this battle, which would help you achieve eternal bliss. You should worry only about this and leave the rest to him, in my opinion. So now if I take all these four sets of verses together, they appeal a lot to me and they make a lot of sense to me. Actually, none of us should worry about the bad winning. Let me give you an interesting example. Everyone is aware of Duryodhan and his story. Actually, Prapanna Gita, which is a variant of the Gita, has a verse involving Duryodhan wherein he says, Janami dharmam na cha me pravrittihi. Janami adharmam na cha me nivrittihi. Tvaya hrishikesh hridi sthitin. Yatha niyokto asmi tatha karomi. The first line of this verse is very famous, which translates into, I know what is right, but I don't have any inclination towards it. I also know what is wrong, but I can hardly refrain from it. This verse is quoted very commonly. The second line is also important, where Duryodhan says, O Lord of the senses, Rishikesh, which is a name for Krishna, I will do as you impel me to do. But in reality, Duryodhan wasn't listening to Lord Krishna. He was instead paying heed to his blind senses, ego, and unbridled desire. He may have been a devotee at heart, but as I said, Paramahansa Yoganand in his interpretation of the Gita mentions that devotion is a necessary condition but not a sufficient condition. And devotion is not enough. You still have to follow the path of right action. Duryodhan may have been a devotee, and he may say that he will do as Lord Krishna impels him to do. But in reality, he wasn't succeeding in winning over his righteous battle. This was the reason why he constantly made mistakes. Mistakes to such an extent that when God went to him as Pandava's messenger and asked for 5 villages, he tried to capture God and make him a prisoner. So this method of obtaining Chidanand Shanti or Chirantan Shanti or eternal peace or God isn't easy. Hence, please stop worrying about trivial things like who is thinking about the world's well-being or that bad people would obtain peace, as this is above your pay grade, as it is generally said. And it is important to remember that it takes a lot of effort to reach the stage of eternal bliss and stay there. If you look at film stars who are physically fit and have a great physique, such as Hrithik Roshan or Salman Khan, they have achieved this physical state after years and years of effort and practice. They follow a strict eating regime. They hit the gym religiously, carry heavy weights, do exercises, sleep well. All that takes years and years to attain the physique that they have. Similarly, it takes a lot of effort to achieve the state of eternal bliss. And it's not that once you attain that state, you have acquired that spot permanently. You can always falter. Ravan was a devotee of Lord Shiv, and he must have achieved a particular state of bliss that made Shiv happy, thereby providing Ravan with the boons that made him so powerful. But Ravan faltered thereafter and made the grave mistake of kidnapping Sita and ending up fighting a war with Lord Ram. So even if you get there, you have to continue to make the effort to stay there. Even if you attain a physique like Salman Khan, you have to continuously put in the hard work to maintain that, or else you will fall down. In the last 4 episodes, I have laid out the sets of verses that have influenced my interpretation of the Gita or the Smriti. In the next episode, we will start chapter 2. Thank you.